I miss when my neighborhood had people I knew. I used to know every voice on my street. I could tell who was coming down the sidewalk just by the sound of their steps or the way their screen door creaked open. I knew the smell of Mrs. Langley's rose bushes 3 houses down. I knew when Mr. Jackson was grilling ribs because the whole block smelled like home. I didn't need to check the weather. I could just ask Carl next door, who'd already watched the morning news twice by 8 a.m. My neighborhood wasn't just a place. It was a heartbeat, and we all moved to its rhythm. Now I sit on my porch and watch strangers pull into driveways that used to belong to people I called family. The mailboxes have new names. The curtains have changed, and most days, the sidewalk stays empty like it's waiting for someone to remember it's there. The houses are still here, but the people, they're not. Some moved away. Some passed on. Some were priced out or pushed out, and the ones who've come in, well, they keep their heads down, earbuds in, garages closed the second they park. I'm not blaming them. Life is different now, but I can't lie. There are days it feels like I'm living in a place that forgot me even though I never left. I miss knowing who lived behind every door. I miss kids riding bikes until sunset and parents yelling their names as streetlights flickered on. I miss casseroles left at the door when someone was sick and holiday. Lights strung across front porches like we were all celebrating together. I miss leaning over the fence to talk about nothing and everything at the same time. And more than anything, I miss being known. There's a loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from being surrounded by people who don't know your story. Don't wave when they pass, don't ask how you're doing and mean it. And when you're older, that loneliness echoes louder. It settles into your bones in a way you don't talk about out loud. So this isn't just about nostalgia. It's about something deeper, something human. We were never meant to live with walls between us, not the kind made of drywall or silence. We were meant to belong somewhere, to someone, even if all that meant was sharing a cup of sugar now and then. I still believe in neighborhoods, not just the word, but the feeling. And maybe if you've felt that loss too, if your porch is quieter these days, if your heart aches when you see a moving truck, you'll understand why this story needs to be told, because missing what was is part of being alive. But maybe remembering it out loud is how we keep it alive too. I didn't grow up rich and the neighborhood wasn't fancy, but it was alive. Our block had its own language, spoken through porch swings and garden hoses and Sunday morning greetings. Back then, everyone's front yard felt like an invitation. You didn't need to call ahead or send a text. You just walked over, knocked once, and stepped into the rhythm of someone else's day. The Hendersons had a flagpole and always hosted the 4th of July barbecue. The Garcias played dominoes in their garage every Saturday evening with music drifting into the street. Ms. Thompson, 3 doors down, always sat on her steps with a glass of iced tea and a story ready for whoever had time to listen. And time. We had it, or maybe we just used it differently. Kids roamed like wildflowers. We rode bikes until our legs burned, invented games that never needed batteries, and knew which driveways you could cut through and which ones you couldn't. There were scraped knees and skinned elbows, sure, but also birthday parties where everyone showed up, casseroles when someone lost a loved one, and laughter that rolled across the lawns like music. The mailman knew our names. So did the butcher. So did the lady at the corner store who sold the best licorice and called every child sweetheart. There was a trust between us that didn't need explaining. You looked out for your neighbors because that's what people did. Not because someone asked you to, but because it felt natural, like breathing. And the beauty of it was how ordinary it all seemed at the time. We didn't know we were building something sacred. We just lived. But now, when I walk these streets, I realize how much of that sacredness has faded. The houses have new coats of paint. The driveways are full of newer cars. The people come and go, and half the time I don't catch their names. There are no more kids playing tag. No more Sunday barbecues. Just quiet, clean, controlled. I remember the first time I noticed something had shifted. The Mitchells moved, away after 40 years. Their house sold in a week and the new owners installed tall hedges along the fence line. They parked in the garage and shut it before I could say hello. I stood there like a stranger in my own front yard. And that's when it hit me. The street hadn't changed overnight. It had changed one goodbye at a time. At first, I thought it was just a few people moving. You expect that now and then. Jobs shift. Kids grow up and move out. Families relocate. But then the for sale signs stopped being rare and started becoming permanent fixtures, rotating, from one lawn to the next like clockwork. One by one, the familiar doors closed. Some of my neighbors retired and downsized. Others couldn't afford to stay as property taxes climbed and the cost of living snuck up on all of us. Some passed away and their kids sold the homes off faster than you could say estate sale. And what came in their place wasn't bad, just different. Suddenly, every other house became a short-term rental. You'd see new faces each week. Suitcase wheels scraping the sidewalk, keys being passed over via text messages instead of handshakes. Porch lights left on all night. No kids, no conversations, just transitions. It felt like the soul of the block was slipping away, not with a scream, but with a whisper. And there's something quietly devastating about that. I tried at first to greet the newcomers. I'd wave, say hello, smile. But more often than not, they'd look startled. Some would return the gesture, awkwardly, as if unsure why an old man was being so friendly. Others wouldn't look up from their phones. Some never looked up at all. That's when the silence started to settle. Not just around me, but inside me. I began to feel like the neighborhood wasn't for me anymore. Like I was the last page in a book everyone else had stopped reading. It's not just the people, it's the way everything moves now. Fast, transactional, everyone's busy, everyone's guarded, the fences are taller, the conversations are shorter. Amazon deliveries come and go, but no one rings your bell anymore. And technology? Don't get me wrong, I see the good in it. But sometimes I wonder if it's become a wall instead of a bridge. Why knock on a neighbor's door when you can order what you need from your phone? Why ask for a cup of sugar when you haven't spoken to the person next door in 3 years? The hardest part isn't feeling old, it's feeling unnecessary. Like whatever I once had to offer to this block, this community, this world, got replaced by convenience and automation. It's not bitterness I carry, it's grief. A quiet, persistent grief. Not for the houses or the sidewalks or even the noise, but for the people, for the spirit. For the way life used to connect us in 1,000 small human ways. Sometimes I sit on my porch and imagine the past walking by. I can still hear Mrs. Langley calling her cat. Still see the Henderson boys tossing a football in the street. Still hear the screen doors clapping in the breeze like applause from a life that used to be mine. And I wonder if anyone else feels it too. That ache for a neighborhood that remembered your name. That missed you when you were gone. That knew the shape of your life because they lived it alongside you. There came a moment, quiet, unremarkable but final, when I realized the neighborhood I once knew wasn't coming back. I'd been waiting for something to shift, like maybe a new neighbor would knock, or some community event would spring up and revive the old spirit. But it didn't, and eventually I had to stop grieving what used to be and start figuring out how to live in what is. The turning point came on an ordinary Tuesday. I was sitting on the porch like I often do, sipping coffee that had long gone cold when a boy on a scooter zoomed past. He wasn't one of the Airbnb guests. He was local. I'd seen him a few times, but we'd never spoken. That day, though, he waved. Just a quick flick of the wrist, like it cost him nothing. But to me, it was everything. It reminded me that connection doesn't always begin with grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with a glance, a wave, a name remembered, a question asked. So I decided to stop waiting. I planted flowers again, even though no one asked me to. I swept the sidewalk, in front of my house, not just for me, but because I still believed in caring for shared space. I started saying hello again, even when it felt awkward. Sometimes I'd get a nod. Sometimes I'd get ignored. But every so often, someone would stop, ask how I was doing, tell me their name. And that's when I understood something I hadn't seen clearly before. Neighborhoods don't vanish overnight, and neither does community. They don't disappear. They go dormant. And sometimes all it takes is one person to plant a seed. I used to think I needed the old neighborhood to come back for me to feel at home again. But I was wrong. What I needed was to carry that sense of home inside me, to embody it, offer it, extend it, even if no one returns it right away. So I started baking a little more than I needed, just enough to bring some cookies next door. I left handwritten notes instead of emails. I waved to the mailman. I offered to help a new neighbor carry in their groceries even when they seemed confused by the gesture. And you know what? Slowly, they responded. Not always, not everyone, but some. One man borrowed my ladder and brought it back with a 6-pack of root beer. A couple across the street invited me over for dinner after I helped them fix a fence panel. A teenage girl with bright pink headphones smiled at me each morning while she waited for her ride. They weren't the same faces, but they were new faces. And maybe that's how it goes. Maybe the faces change, but the spirit, that quiet, generous spirit of neighborliness, can stay alive if someone keeps lighting the torch. And I realized that someone could be me, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because being a neighbor isn't about property lines or party invitations, it's about presence, about showing up, about choosing again and again to be part of something, even if it no longer looks the way it used to. I still miss the neighborhood I grew up in. I miss the familiarity, the laughter, the way we all used to be stitched into each other's lives without even trying. I miss the comfort of being known without introduction, the warmth of being expected. But here's what I've learned. Neighborhoods aren't built on history alone. They're built on heart. And while the names on the mailboxes may change and the houses may get remodeled, the soul of a community isn't tied to its past. It's carried by the people willing to nurture it now. It's easy to sit back and say, things aren't like they used to be. And it's true, they're not. But it's also true that kindness still matters, that people still long to be seen, that connection can be revived, not with big ideas, but with small, repeated choices. So if you're feeling the ache I've felt, if your street feels like a memory more than a home, don't give up on it just yet. Smile first, wave first, ask the name you've been too nervous to ask, bake the cookies, share the flowers, leave the light on. Because even in a world that moves fast and forgets easily, there's still room for slow trust, for real presence, for neighbors who remember how to care. And maybe, just maybe, when the next person moves in, they'll look around and think, this feels like home, not because the street is the same, but because you stayed, because you still believed, because you never stopped being the kind of neighbor the world needs more of. You may miss what was, but you are part of what can be. And that might just be enough to start something beautiful again.